Big corporations are masters of the political game. They have the money to pay the lobbyists, lawyers, and politicians to get what they need. And in turn, the government gets what it needs from big business: cooperation, compliance, and campaign contributions.
Well, that's not the free market, man. That's not the job of the bank.
Right. Well, as we're seeing in many places across the country that are working on this issue, and there are about 20 states doing something on an anti-ESG bill, the biggest opposition that we're seeing is coming because all of these bills are being proposed in states where Republicans have most of the political power, if not all of it. What we're seeing is that it's the biggest opposition is coming from Republicans. And the Republicans who are arguing against it, it's not a majority of them. It's usually just a small group of them. But they're saying this is a free market issue. And you just need to let banks and financial institutions and all these people discriminate against individuals and other businesses as they see fit, because that's that's their argument.
If it was a bank, great. But it's all of the banks coordinating with the government and big business on an agenda.
For MyPillow CEO and founder Mike Lindell, his bank is now saying no more pillow. Mike Lindell says a bank is closing his accounts over fear of reputational damage. He has been asked by his bank, Heartland Financial, to close his accounts over fear of the institution's reputational damage. The alleged representative said the institution is afraid his bank records might be subpoenaed by federal authorities, presenting a risk to the bank's image. If a bank feels that an existing client or a potential client might be a threat to the bank's reputation, they can choose to close the accounts. Conservative subreddits are losing their minds. They think this should be illegal. They're also against business regulation, but they want to mandate that a bank give Pillow an account. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. And I thought that businesses were allowed to choose their customers when it's a gay wedding cake that a baker doesn't want to bake. But I guess in this case, they don't.
All right, so I got to respond here for just a minute to David Pakman talking about Mike Lindell being debanked by his local bank up in Minnesota. So first of all, let's go over a couple of facts of the case. Pakman is very liberal and Lindell is obviously very Republican. I don't know any significant conservative voice calling for banks debanking someone, local banks debanking someone, to be illegal. Banks should be allowed to choose. Then let the free market decide. We are all in favor of the free market. However, here's the challenge, okay? I want to flip these tables around just a minute. And David, if you ever have the guts to respond to this, tell me what your thoughts would be. Now, number one, fact, Mike Lindell has broken no laws with his political opinion. Number two, Mike Lindell it is not his MyPillow account with this bank. It is his other accounts, particularly one with his charitable contribution. I think it's a 501c3. I don't know for sure, but I think that's what it is. So it's his charitable arm, not his business arm. And he hasn't done anything illegal. Let's go ahead and rotate this around a little bit. And I want to see what your response would be and hear what you think. David, I'm interested in you, but also viewers. If you have a thought on this, let me know down in the comments. Let's pretend for a minute. Now, Black Lives Matter Incorporated, Black Lives Matter Inc., the corporation, which now is accused of criminal mishandling of funds, and they're in a lot of trouble. Having all kinds of issues. But let's pretend for a minute that they hadn't done anything illegal. Now, they did fund the burning down of our cities in 2020. And, lots and lots of issues going on there. Okay, but let's pretend none of that happened. Let's pretend that all they did was hold rallies that I disagree with, that are on the left. So imagine that happened. BLM had a bank account at a bank. Imagine they hadn't broken any laws or set fire to our cities. They just were liberal-minded and politically left-oriented. and they opened up an account, and then the bank shut them down. How would you feel? My guess is you would be screaming, and you actually would be calling for that to be illegal. Now, nobody that I know on the right, maybe Bob's red light district is out there. Bob's out there behind his microphone going, oh, this ought to be illegal. But no one significant in the conservative movement is calling for this to be illegal. All we're doing is raising the awareness on this, saying, hey, if you bank with this company and you are a conservative, just so you know, they shut a conservative down. Now, I don't think they should shut anyone down, but they have the right to do that. And I, frankly, if I had my money there, I would pull it out. Not because what they did was illegal, but because I have the right to decide how I vote with my money.
Is the ruling class exploiting public health neurosis to take power and take money and squash the little guy and blow up the big so-called private corporations that are completely in bed with the government? And sometimes it's preposterous even to pretend that they're private. Yes, of course, we know that they're doing that.
More than 30 million small businesses account for about half the GDP and jobs in America. The other half of the economy is concentrated in around 20,000 big companies. Based on that almost equal split of economic value, you might expect that small businesses have the same clout as big businesses. Not even close. Big firms were deemed essential and allowed to stay open, while small businesses were subjected to punishing lockdown orders and forced to close in part or in full. The hypocrisy presented by this government edict, big box open, mom and pop not, was obvious for all to see. These decisions were not based on science, but on political influence.
Chief Justice White articulated what became known as the rule of reason. He basically said possession of a monopoly isn't per se illegal. An act such as variable pricing or exclusive contracts, they're not necessarily illegal. But under the rule of reason, they're considered illegal if their effect is to unreasonably restrain trade. In his decision, White made no reference to, didn't try to measure or calculate the harm done to consumers by Standard Oil's monopoly. What he instead focused on was the abusive conduct to competitors. In other words, even if they didn't directly harm consumers, they tried to restrain trade. They were anti-competitive.
So the idea that this is just something that the little guy can, well, if your local bank's discriminating against you, just go to a different bank. Oh, if a local corporation is discriminating, you just just buy from a different corporation. They're all going to be in on it. They're not going to have any choice. And the people who resist are going to be pushed out. They're already being pushed out by massive asset managers on Wall Street, like BlackRock and State Street Global Advisors and others. So you will have to go along with this.